Yo, what's going on, guys? Sam here. Apple and privacy. It is a topic you've probably heard about. Every keynote, every ad, every Apple webpage seems to have something about privacy. They're constantly telling us how it's so important, how no other company like them is doing it, and why we should really just care, because nobody seems to really care right now. There are a lot of Apple fans that will simply defend the company without even looking at facts or any objectivity and just say the company is the best no matter what. But something that I've always tried to do, as much as I am a fan, I also want to be a critic. It's a very hard line to find. Sometimes I've missed the mark for sure, and other times I feel like I've done a fairly good job. I'm using that improperly. Today is one of those times that I feel the need to be a critic, because you know the privacy campaigns Apple has been doing over the past few years. They put up, outside of CES, a giant ad, I think just around a year ago, saying that what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. Since then, and even a little bit before, we've gotten all these different campaigns about iPhone privacy. Everything you do is private. We encrypt all this stuff. Nobody's going to see your stuff except you. And honestly, it's been a really noble stance compared to companies like Google and especially Facebook, where they're on the far left saying, well, we have this data of yours, but it makes us a lot of money, so we're going to share it with advertisers to help them target things at you. Apple's done the complete opposite. They're over here on the far right, and they've been saying consistently that we don't share your data. Yes, from time to time, we do cooperate with the government, especially here in the US, but also abroad, giving them data when it is a valid request or there's a court subpoena. But largely, at the end of the day, you own your stuff, and we can't even get into it because it's encrypted. It sounds really great on the surface, and I am by no means here to say Apple has not done anything for privacy and they're just as bad as everyone else. I'm here to say when you're so far in one direction, you sort of have to stay there. Apple's over here and they're saying, no, we love data, we love your privacy, and we want that stuff to be yours. So we understand that pain point for you. We want to protect your stuff. But then they're saying, well, in one major case, we're actually not going to do that. You see, on your Mac or PC, whenever you plug in and back up to your computer, it actually disables iCloud backup entirely, meaning that all of your stuff is going to be stored on your computer. Now, you can store that as a normal backup or an end-to-end encryption. And when you encrypt that, you have to enter a passcode that only you know. If you remember that passcode, you can restore and get back into that information and load it onto an iPhone or examine it at any time in great detail. But if you forget that password, Apple, the government, and no one else in between can get you into that backup. There is one key that only you know, that you've created it, that you own, and nobody else can touch that in between. That is a complete end-to-end encryption. It's a complete backup. iCloud is a different story. Reuters, a very well-respected news organization, published an article today that was pretty damning towards Apple. But it wasn't like the clickbait, like you won't believe what Apple did. It was sort of an objective look at Apple's stance on iCloud backup and privacy, essentially in the light of the recent 2019 terrorist attack in the United States, when it's sort of the resurgence of like the San Bernardino case from a few years ago. Should Apple unlock a terrorist iPhone? That's a story for another day. I don't even want to dive into that because it gets really political really quick. Now, I get if Apple was in the process of doing this, and apparently a couple years ago when the San Bernardino case was happening, Apple was fully planning to do this. But Reuters claims that recently, Apple's been in talks with the FBI, and the FBI has sort of talked Apple out of allowing this to happen. Now, Apple has not issued an official statement just yet. I'm sure they will, because this is a pretty big story, but right now they've just remained silent. My big issue with the stance here is that with Apple's constant pressure to move your stuff to iCloud, they actually do have a key, and your stuff isn't for your eyes only. While the literal sending and receiving of something like an iMessage is end-to-end encrypted, meaning that nobody can intercept it, nobody can get the point A to point B or anywhere in between of my conversation with you. As soon as I back up those conversations to iCloud, they're available for Apple to see. So it's a weird line here, because Apple's saying your stuff is your stuff, but if you use a core part of Apple's services, then your stuff isn't actually only your stuff, it can be their stuff too. And I'm so frustrated by this because I didn't know that was the case. I took Apple's word for it that when I used iCloud, that I think I pay $3 to $4 a month for it, all that stuff is going to be end-to-end encrypted, that nobody can get it but me. But it turns out it's only partially encrypted, so that a government agent, if I was arrested tomorrow, could see my photos, could see my text messages, and that's a pretty uncomfortable feeling, and I just feel like I've been slightly deceived. I'm not going to come on here and tell you, well, I'm starting a suit for Apple, I think class action is required. I'm not here to say that. I'm just here to say that Apple is so far in this direction. It feels like they weren't telling the full truth here, and that's a bit disappointing. There is one key detail here that I have to bring up though. It claims that a potentiality for Apple disabling this by default and really not offering it is that for the average person, if everything was end-to-end encrypted, if you forgot your iCloud password, all of your photos, all of your text, everything would be gone. So Apple feels the possible need to have their own key to sort of help you when you get stuck. If you can verify that you own the Apple ID and prove you are who you say you are, they're going to help you get back into your stuff. And I think that is an excellent, vital option here. In fact, I don't think that this should be enabled by default. I think they should ask you about it when you set up your phone, but I don't think you should do it by default because there would be probably millions of people a year that would lose really important, really valuable data that they own. I do, however, think it's vital that Apple offers end-to-end encryption as an option. They will say there is absolutely no way in the subtext you can get your data back if you forget your password. I would sign up for that. I would say I'm willing to take that risk. Then if you forget, it's on you. You know, it would be on me if I forgot. It wouldn't be on anybody else, and you can't be frustrated with Apple. But the fact that they aren't adding it and they've ceased plans apparently, I don't like the way that that sounds, and I think it is quite contrary to all the marketing they've been doing to every keynote when they get up on stage and say they care about our privacy. It sounds like they don't straight up just care about our privacy. Feels like there's a big caveat here that no one's really been talking about until Reuters broke the story that this is not a planned feature, that the government, with a subpoena at any time, could get access to your iCloud data. So if you want to stay protected, again, back up to your computer, turn off iCloud backups, and I mean, really look at Apple's privacy site, because a lot of the claims on here, they're true unless you back up to iCloud. And then there's a lot of gray area, and it's not as nearly black and white as Apple paints it out to be. I know this is a really different video. I would love to hear your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. No fun iPhone 12 rumor today, no sick iPad Pro leak, no AirPods 3 stuff in the house. I just wanted to, you know, sort of share my expression here, because I feel like so many people are uninformed. Like, I literally cover Apple for a living, and I had no idea that it wasn't end-to-end encrypted. So I just wanted to share that with all of you today. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. Hit subscribe if you did, and I've been Sam. See all of you in my next video.